How do you use your network to get help making career and life decisions?
Well, as I am getting more old and more established, and I find myself much more being in the mentor role, although one never stops needing advice and guidance, from those ahead of us. I've been struck lately by how many, especially young women, who do kind of organically find me or come to me or in my work. I'm out in the community a lot. So I'm thrilled to be able to use my networks that way to make connections for people who ought to meet. And I see my role very much as a connector that way, not necessarily to be, the font of all knowledge by any means, but possibly being able to connect somebody who needs to meet somebody else who might be able to help them at this time.
Mm-hmm. How'd you learn that?
I think for many Asian Americans, we're raised with the kind of message that you just put your nose to the grindstone, you work really hard, you study hard, and the rewards will follow, and that pertains maybe in school where there's a kind of correlation between hard work and then getting an A. But I think out in the real world, we understand that of course it's important to work hard, but it's also really important to be not looking, just down at your desk all the time, but really to be looking outward to see who are people who you need to meet or who you need to maybe connect to other people, and that is just as important, if not even more important. And I think it's taken me a while to kind of learn that, but it is something that I'm enjoying a lot more and able to do a lot more naturally. I think it has a lot to do with just maturing and being out there and just understanding how important it is when we experience somebody helping us, giving us a leg up, and then we can kind of in turn do the same for others.
What's your advice to young professionals and mid-career professionals that are approaching you asking for help? Where are they being held up? Where are the hurdles there, and what is your advice to them to kind of get over some of those hurdles and fears?
I often get asked to speak on panels, panels on Asian American community issues or on philanthropy. And one thing that I notice is that a lot of younger people come to listen to those of us on the panel, who might be more experienced or who are sort of more known in the community. And they might listen and take diligent notes, and then they leave. But what I would really like to tell them is what's important, more important than taking the notes, is to come up to us after the panel. Bring your business card. If somebody, be sincere. I mean, if somebody did make a point or their message resonated with you, if somebody you'd like to get to know, don't be fearful that this is some very important person who would never have the time for you. I think it's very flattering for somebody who is on a panel to have people who are interested in what they had to say. So I would really encourage them to come up, introduce themselves, exchange business cards, and then follow up. Send an email. Just stay in touch, and you never know, where a relationship like that can take you. And I think, it's not like I have hundreds of people who have done that for me. I remember the ones, who have done that, and then we often, can continue a relationship.